Now, hang with me because I am going from a transition of Boys and Men by Richard Reeves to the autobiography of Eartha Kitt, Confessions of a Sex Kitten. And I know that this transition will seem weird, but it makes perfect sense in my brain as I am calibrating. I'm just finishing up this book of Boys and Men, and supposedly this book is about what we can do for men and boys to get them out of this crisis of masculinity and crisis of manhood. But in his solution and in his talking points, he keeps bringing women into the fold and what women have done and achieved through the years, and how we have increased our presence in STEM, and how we have done so much better during feminism and during our time going up. At the same point in time, men and boys have been going down. The reason why his book kind of fell flat for me is because he kept bringing women into his equations when you can't really use women as a mirror for things to do, because men and boys have not had the same starting points as women and the same reasons why women went forward and did all of the things that women have done in this country through feminism and throughout other movements. You can't use women because women have done these things because of need, because women were second class citizens in this country, because women were vulnerable due to the things that men implemented and put in place as far as legislating the fact that we were second class citizens. And don't be a black woman on top of that, because racism and sexism were built into this country's foundation. So when you are talking about the things that women have accomplished in this lifetime since we have been here, you cannot use that as a bullet point or as a game plan for what men need to do, because men have not been oppressed and were not second class citizens. Men have always had the opportunities. So that's the reason why this fell flat for me. I finished this up, and a lot of the things that he is proposing, probably won't happen, because he wants more men in positions that are heal positions: healthcare, education, administration, and literacy. But more men are not going to go into those positions until we address the systemic undervaluing and paying women less, because those are typically women positions. So until those things get addressed and speak about the historical implications of why women were paid less, then we'll not see men in those positions. And until we until men stop using women for defining their manhood, like everything opposite of what a woman is what a man is. Until men stop using women as a defining measure of what manhood is, men are also not going to go into these positions, despite the fact that men are needed in these positions and the fact that these positions need bodies. Men are not going to go into them because they are seen too much as being feminine roles. And until men are just not the opposite of women, meaning that's how they define themselves as everything we are not, they're not going to go into these roles. So that's the reason why this falls flat for me. Also, it falls flat because as he is proposing these things, he's not talking about who he wants to accomplish it. Is he trying to rope us all into this, like men and women, into these solutions? Because women have not been the ones that are holding men and boys down. It has been this system of patriarchy. And the system of patriarchy is the reason why more boys and men don't go into these positions. So there needs to be a clarifying factor of who he thinks is going to go into these roles. So I say that because men and boys need to accomplish these things, and they're not accomplishing them. But it's not because there are roadblocks put in place. They're not. Men and boys can go to school. Men and boys can go to work. So using women as as a game plan, as a blueprint won't work. Now, so I finished that up. Now, what in the world does that have to do with Eartha Kitt? I just cracked open this book and I'm reading this book and I've only got through 2 chapters. And I can see exactly why our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, our mothers fought so hard to push us to where we are and why we want to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. Because the earliest and the only memories, the earliest and onlyest memories that Eartha Kitt has of her mother is like walking door to door, trying to find some place to sleep, trying to find things to eat. Her earliest memories with her mother are being hungry and having to beg for other people to give them food and shelter for the day. Eartha Kitt was born in 1927 or somewhere around there. And what she remembers is hunger. Now, keep that in mind. We know Eartha Kitt. We don't know millions of other women who were born in that time frame that had to rely on the courtesy or the benevolence or the transactions of others. We don't know those women's names. We don't know what they had to do to feed their kids or feed themselves. And so that is the reason why feminism was so strong, because we had to do that to survive. Women were second class citizens in that we had to rely on men for food and shelter. It was legislated. We didn't own ourselves. We didn't have the rights to just go to work. And when we did go to work, we were paid pennies on the dollars for working. Women's positions and professions were undervalued and underpaid, so that we still had to rely on a man. So that's another reason why you see the fight in us women for a reason. And even if I didn't have to specifically fight, it was passed down. I don't have to know that hunger or that fear of going to door to panhandle for my children to understand that this has all been for survival. And that survival has been passed down through womanhood, from my grandmother to my mother, from my aunties, from women that we didn't know. So I know that that was a weird transition, but the whole point is men will not be able to use women as a blueprint, because men have not gone through the same things that women have gone through in this country. They just haven't. And like I said, I'm closing the book on Of Boys and Men, and I'm going into Confessions of a Sex Kitten. I like to read autobiographies from a woman's perspective, because it gives a different perspective. When you read about history, it is very broad. When you look with a narrower eye and see the world through somebody's eyes, you see how it impacted, you see how legislation impacted women specifically. Just imagining taking your children, if I put myself in that position and I had to walk door to door just to feed my children, just imagining hungry and tired children, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine the pain, the frustration, the stress a mother would feel. And so when you read autobiographies, you can put yourself in that position and you can understand the whys of why women did certain things. So as I learn more about the life of Eartha Kitt, I will bring you guys more. But that is my book review from Boys and Men. I give it a some things was hitting, some things fell flat for me, because he needs to think about men and boys strictly in terms of men and boys and kind of leave women out of it. So I'm closing that book out. I'm bringing this book into the fold, and hopefully you guys will tune in for that, because we like to nerd out over here. All right. Get in the comments. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, share.